with all that's going on and how crazy Trump is being, I think it's easy to miss some of his underlings and how wacky they're being. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., his Health and Human Services Secretary, has gotten himself into a little kerfluffle that I want to talk about. To do so, I want to bring in Brittany Page. Hello. There's no time to introduce you. Page perspective.
Yes.
Stop. I'm kidding.
Hi, everyone. Hopefully this ends well for me. I don't know where things are headed based on what just happened.
Okay. And here is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in an interview, and I missed this discussion, that then now scientists are coming out to say, what the is RFK doing?
Yes.
Right? So we'll react to this, and then Brittany has a lot of beautiful things to discuss. And by beautiful, I mean terrible.
Let me ask you a concern, and you inherited this, President Trump inherited this, is the avian flu, which is impacting the cost of eggs and chicken.
Why is he eating his fry like that?
Why did it require, fingering the fry in the way that he just did? I don't...
You inherited this, President Trump inherited this, is the avian flu, which is impacting the cost of eggs and chicken.
That alone, you can't eat a fry like that. You're out.
This is also strange because it's the perfect time to chew and eat your fry when someone's asking the question,
So
right? Like if you're doing an
mashing
eat and talk, which would be a nightmare for me, like that would be very stressful. That's the perfect opportunity to just put that fry right in your mouth hole. And he was wasting time.
And also, what is this? We're talking about health and human services and a fast food truck. I mean, I eat too much fast food, so no judgment. But what?
Yeah.
This is the wrong environment. But sorry, avian flu. Here we go.
What do you think needs to be done to eradicate that? And what do we do short term? What do we do long term? In other words, do we import eggs? Do we import chickens? Do we have to wipe out the population that might be infected by this?
No, we, first of all, avian flu will never be eradicated. It is endemic in wild populations of birds, and particularly mallards, and that's what infects the domestic flocks. And so you'll never get rid of it, and it doesn't appear to hurt wild birds. They have some kind of immunity. And the strategy, the White House, all of my agencies have advised against vaccination of birds. Because if you vaccinate with a leaky vaccine, in other words, a vaccine that does not provide sterilizing immunity, that does not absolutely protect against the...
Okay, we get it. Let's just,
So
let's go ahead and just give the facts.
Okay, the key thing, well, this is just filled with lies. I mean, it doesn't even matter. You don't need to listen to him, right? Like, he's not a scientist. He's a lawyer. His bachelor's degree is in something that's not science. Like, he's not a scientist.
He does good push-ups. Have you seen the videos?
I haven't.
The heck? It's not fair.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
What he just said about wild birds there, incorrect. And Listen, I'm not a scientist either. I mean, I have a master of science, but it's not, in birds. It's in other things. It's not in pathology. It's, in clinical psychology. So the virus, according to reporting from the New York Times, first took root among wild birds. So he just said it like it doesn't affect wild birds.
Right.
It first took root in wild birds.
Oof.
And then it was transmitted to domestic poultry.
Okay.
So the first thing out of his mouth
his fry-filled mouth
is wrong. Maybe he should have just kept funneling those fries right into his mouth hole. So this is just more of the same from RFK, though. I mean, he's an anti-vaccine activist. He always has been. And he wants to just let the bird flu run through the birds. That's his plan.
Yeah, I saw that New York Times report. What was the suggestion from him about avian flu, how to address it, that raised the red flag so much for scientists?
It was just letting it rage through the population. And according to scientists that are quoted in the article, they said, quote, "That's a really terrible idea for any number of reasons. And one of them is because every infection is another opportunity for the virus to evolve into a more virulent form. And so you're just setting yourself up for this to mutate over and over and over and over again."
So this is so RFK. I'm laughing just, only so I don't cry. RFK Jr., the nation's top health official.
Oh my God.
has an unorthodox idea. I love the way they had to write this. Unorthodox idea for tackling the bird flu. Let the virus rip.
Yeah.
Instead of culling birds when the infection is discovered, farmers should consider maybe the possibility of letting it run through the flock.
And again, the scientist in this article is quoted as saying, if you allow it to run through a flock of 5 million birds, that's literally 5 million chances for that virus to replicate or to mutate. And so this is, I mean, again, you know RFK has a brainworm. I know everyone talks about it, but can I tell you my favorite brainworm anecdote?
I'm scared as to where this is going, but yes.
So he argued, the reason that we know about the brainworm is because he argued in his divorce proceedings from his second wife that his earning power was diminished by the cognitive struggles caused by the brainworm. And so he's like, I can't pay alimony. I have this brainworm. You know, I can't earn money. How am I supposed to pay alimony? I have a brainworm. But interestingly enough, the brainworm affects his cognition related to making money and paying alimony, but not being the secretary for Health and Human Services. Interesting.
Very interesting.
Scares me a little bit.
The brainworm phenomenon was one of the weirder in the lead up to the election. It was that, and then him like getting a bear in his car.
Yeah. How about the fact that the brainworm didn't move the needle at all for anyone? People were like, I don't know. It doesn't seem too bad. Brainworms seem kind of nice, actually.
Because Bobby, you gotta love Bobby. It was a good argument, I thought.
Yeah. So
the biology and the immunology doesn't work that way, said one of the doctors. I love how they're talking to him. They're like, this would be a really bad idea. It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way. That's wrong. You have to talk to him like he's a child.
Yeah.
It's disturbing because, again, it fits with the larger pattern of him being an anti-vaccine activist. He's wanting to, this was like earlier reporting that came out, I think a month ago, around his confirmation hearing. What is time anymore? Was that about a month ago?
I don't know.
So he's being pressured, or he wants to, or people that are like his communications director, his former communications director, something like this, said that he should recruit scientists who want to seek proof that vaccines cause autism. And that's
seek proof.
Not how science works now, is it? You don't want to seek proof, right?
You predetermined claim, yeah.
Right. I mean, that's how we get retractions due to fraud, sweetie. Like that's, come on. You propose a question, a research question that you want to possibly answer. And then you design your study and you collect the data and then you analyze the data and you see what your results are. And you don't say, let's get someone who's going to find what we want to find.
Right.
That's a recipe for disaster. But that shows you, obviously, I guess, the truth of their claims, because you wouldn't need to find scientists who want to prove that. Mm-hmm. We already know it doesn't, right? There's no connection.
Right.
So yeah, that's just my little rant.
I know this is a really concerning little subset story that's so significant of the Trump administration that I just don't think will get a ton of attention because RFK, avian flu, that's going to completely fall by the wayside compared to Trump openly threatening people. But the sort of generational impact of even just this 4 years, especially with childhood health, of having someone who maybe in some areas will do fine things, but on very consequential areas has just the wrong mindset.
Did you get the flu this year?
No comment on why the mindset's flawed. Worm or no worm? I don't know. I'm saying I don't know.
Worm or no worm?
Worm or no worm?
Oh my God.
He worms me not.
Did you get the flu this year?
No.
Okay, so you're lucky. The flu almost took me out.
Really?
Oh yeah. And they are like canceling meetings to select the variants that go into next year's flu vaccine, which is possibly offsetting the entire schedule of whether or not we'll even have a flu vaccine because it takes like 6 months to develop. Oh, okay. So yeah, RFK's influence and ability to wreck the American health infrastructure is very scary. When you have someone who doesn't understand basic concepts, he doesn't have respect for the scientific process or the way that science works, and he really is an activist. And that's not really what you want. I mean, sure, you can have someone who's an activist and passionate about health outcomes and improving the health of Americans, which is what he claims, right? But if you were actually passionate about those things, then you would support vaccines.
Yeah. Plain and simple, I say a lot of times with conspiracy theorists that my issue with them, why it's so frightening to put them into power, it's not just that they believed a theory. It's that by believing that theory, they told me a lot about their critical thinking skills, and how they decipher fact from, fiction. And so with him, with all the things we've learned that at one point in his life he believed,
right,
it puts into question that him as a full-grown adult didn't have that ability to figure out, to understand how you determine if a conclusion is factual. Then that applies to everything. So it is about his specific vaccine stance, but he'll go, well, no, I've walked back, during his hearing, he was like, no, vaccines, sure, good. It
wink,
has
wink.
to do with that issue and how his inability to understand scientific consensuses, etc., could apply to other things. Brittany, where can people find you?
Right here on YouTube, Brittany Page, The Page Perspective. I would love for you to join me there.